Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
It's tough holding the lead. It is really tough because, you start playing a little bit conservative maybe and not as aggressive. But, obviously Martin's playing very good golf right now. And, that's tough. He's, I think he's at 10 under last I saw. So, I'll have to come out and, shoot a good score tomorrow.
Well, there's two U.S. Opens going on. There's the tournament that Martin Keimer is playing, and then there's everybody else. He has just secretariated himself from the rest of the field, blown them away at the halfway point at 10 under par. He must think he's Tiger Woods or something, the way he's dominating. Very surprisingly that he could go out and shoot back-to-back 65s on that course, but that's what he has done, and we'll get more from the Open with Bob Gillespie. Bob will join us tonight in just a little bit. Meantime, did you see the speed turned at Michigan today? We'll tell you about that. Incredible speed at Michigan Raceway today as they qualified for Sunday's race. Gamecocks pick up one commitment for their secondary, close on getting another after the first session of the Steve Spurrier Summer Camp. Wrapped up today. We'll tell you all about that, too. So we got a very busy show coming your way tonight. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and the Professor Tom Hayes on this Friday. And let us begin the show by wishing everybody a happy Father's Day coming up this weekend. Hope everybody gives their dad a hug, a slap on the back, maybe give him a box of golf balls or something, or a new fishing pole, or whatever it is you turns your dad on. Take care of him.
Yeah, I think I speak for a lot of fathers. When the best gift you can give a dad on Father's Day, just give him some time alone. Just give him a little time to kind of hang out, read a book, watch a game, go hit a golf ball.
You want your space on Father's Day?
Sometimes it's good, not the whole day.
I want a hug. I want a hug on Father's Day.
I want a hug every day.
Yeah.
I don't limit those to one day out of the year.
Pro, what do you want on Father's Day?
Oh, I have mine. That's peace and quiet.
You got plenty of space.
Peace and quiet.
Yeah.
And I want to, and I would just warn people that, see, you went to work today, nothing really happened on Friday the 13th, and you were worried.
Well, today was Friday the 13th,
It's
wasn't
Friday,
it?
and there's supposed to be a honeymoon
the day.
tonight. The first time in 100 years.
And that
It's
is
called
what?
the honeymoon. It's kind of a yellowish orange moon tonight. So if you get a chance, you're out late, look up at the moon, a full
cheese moon.
honeymoon.
That's a Clemson moon, if it's got
First
orange
time in 100. Next time, if you want to wait around for it, 2098. So you might want to catch it this time.
Be waiting on that. Coming up shortly, we're going to talk some Gamecock football with quarterbacks coach G.A. Mangus. He'll be joining us here shortly. Bob Gillespie at the bottom of the hour. And we will take you to Michigan, let you hear from Kevin Harvick, who set a track record today, a blistering speed in qualifying, second fastest qualifying run in NASCAR history, behind what Bill Elliott did in 1987. That'll never be topped, 212 miles an hour. And Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR, later tonight as well. Back in a moment. much you do on this Friday edition of Sports Talk. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. If you want to join in early on in the program, 800-956-7266. Our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. Website is sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at SportsTalkSC. And on Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network. Let's give you the leaderboard from the U.S. Open as things stand now, as we're late in round number 2. And Martin Kaymer just having a terrific time in Pinehurst. Back-to-back 65s leaves him at 10 under and 6 shots clear of the field. Brendan Todd is in second. He's on the course. He's 4 under. Kevin Na, Brent Snedeker, Jordan Spieth, they are on the course. They are at 3 under par. And in the clubhouse at 2 under par, you've got Brooks Koepka, Columbia's Dustin Johnson, Brendan DeYoung, and Keegan Bradley, all in the clubhouse, 2 under par. Matt Kuchar's on the course at 2 under par, as is Chris Kirk and Hideki Matsuyama. Some others that we follow, Rory McIlroy on the course at -1, Graham McDowell +2 on the course. Phil Mickelson still on the course. He's at 2 over par. Jim Furyk is in at 3 over. Bill Haas at 72. He's at +4. Ernie Els on the course at +4, as is Russell Henley. Luke Donald at 69 leaves him at +6, as is Bubba Watson after a 70. Lucas Glover, 69 for Lucas, leaves him at +8. And Kevin Kisner, a 77, leaves him at +12. Right now, the projected cut is at +4. You take the top 60 golfers, and ties make the cut, and that's going to be at +4 at this point. So it is Martin Kaymer's tournament. No golfers ever won the Players' Championship in the U.S. Open in the same year, and he is certainly gunning for that. Of course, he's already got a major title under his belt and was a hero for the Europeans in the Ryder Cup. So got a lot of good things going for him. We'll see if that will hold up, if his good play will hold up. However, over the weekend, certainly things are going to get tougher and tighter at Pinehurst as we head into the weekend. All right, as we mentioned, USC quarterbacks coach G.A. Mangus is going to join us to talk some Gamecock football, and he has done so right now. We appreciate that. I know it's been a busy time for the Gamecock coaches because they've got camp going on today, and perhaps he's taken a timeout for a little glimpse at what's happening over at Pinehurst. First of all, thanks for being with us. Can you believe what Martin Kaymer has done the first 2 rounds at Pinehurst?
Is he still 10 under? Is that what he is?
Yeah, 65-65.
I'll tell you what, he's got game like you got.
Well, I mean, you would take those 2 rounds and combine them. You'd have my score at Pinehurst if you.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing considering how tough I guess it's playing. I didn't get a chance to watch any of it today, but I did hear that he broke the record. So that's pretty impressive.
Have you ever played number 2?
I have not, but I love the redo. I watched a little bit yesterday, and I definitely would love to get a chance to go play it. That's for sure.
All right, let's jump into some football. And I wanted to ask you, with the new rules, there can be some involvement with players and such once they're back on campus this summer. And wanted to ask you about what, if anything, you've done so far with your quarterback group.
Well, the rules changed, and it is they still have an 8-hour total week, so we're allowed to have a couple of meetings with them per week within those 8 hours, and it's been good. Some people, I've heard some other comments from coaches through the summer of what they're doing and whatnot, and it hadn't changed a whole bunch for us here. Our guys have always been really good about watching tape in summer, but it is nice to be able to hang with them, whereas I haven't been in the past, even though it's, maybe an hour or 2 a week is all we get. But, they're off to a good start. It's been nice giving them and watching some tape with them and getting ready for those early opponents. And then, Dylan's always been so good about that. And when I'm not allowed to be there, of course, he kind of gets everybody together and does that. Your incoming guys now, it's a little bit of an advantage. With the incoming freshmen, if you can get them ready to play a little quicker, with us being able to get them for a couple hours a week. So I'm sure all the coaches are utilizing that, and and when they can, and amongst their schedules, they have very busy summer schedules too. So some of us have been, we get 2 or 3 here and 2 or 3 there, based on their schedules, with class and study halls and those things. So it's a pretty busy time for the kids in the summertime, contrary to what many people believe.
Yeah. When you sit down with Dylan, because, I mean, obviously he's been in the program long enough, he knows the intricacies of the offense, but when you sit down with him now and you guys look at film, what things are you pointing out to him? Is it more about the technical stuff with his delivery and things of that nature? What do y'all talk about the most?
You know what? The opponent's scheme. He likes to, his motion. I mean, we always talk about the stuff that we do here, but he practices that all the time, and all the guys do, and he leads it now and gets everybody going. But they do their throwing drills and all the things that we ask them to do. They do that on their own, and they get to where they do it so often that it gets pretty ingrained. Some of the younger ones, you may harp on that a little more. Hey, how's it coming? That type of stuff. But Dylan's motion's where we want it. And it's just all about throwing and getting timing. We talk more about, hey, getting the timing down with the wide receivers and spending as much time with those guys. But more often than not, when we're allowed to sit together now, we're watching tape on future opponents and talking scheme, what almost game planning. What do you see here? What do you like? And when they get to that point, that's when they have a real good grasp of what we're trying to accomplish.
How much time to this point have you guys spent looking at Texas A&M?
Oh, enough. Exact amount. I mean, we've watched a bunch of games and together, and then of course those guys we have what we want in June and July. In terms of getting together a game plan and watching every game that we have on them by the end of June, and then move on to another point. Normally, you always try to do 2 or 3 game self scout over the summer, and then opponent scout by the end of the summer. So. That's what I meant about stuff that hadn't really changed. The same things we've been doing all through the summers, the last handful of years is still what we're doing. The difference is I just get to actually watch a little bit with them during the week that I haven't been able to do in the past.
As far as looking ahead, Coach, as far as the mentality of a Dylan Thompson versus a Connor Shaw, what differences do you see? Do you think in Dylan he may look at film and say, well, Coach, can I gamble here? I mean, if I see a guy have a step on somebody, I'm going to chunk it deep. In other words, is he more of a riverboat gambler, you think, when he goes back to throw, that he's going to be looking deep this year?
Well, he needs to look and make sure he protects the ball, and that's the one thing we did all spring, and he knows that. We've won a bunch of football games around here the last few years protecting the ball and not turning it over. And if you have a good sound offense and good defense and you don't turn the ball over, you're going to give yourself a chance to win in the fourth quarter most of the time. And I think Connor proved that last year with 24 touchdowns to 1 pick. And that pick, he kind of got flushed out of the pocket and had to throw across his body and underthrew it just a shade, and it got picked off. That was the only interception he had all year. So, that kind of ratio is a little bit not the norm. That's kind of abnormally good on a 24-to-1 ratio. But, does he like to throw it in there a little bit more? Sure. But did he have a great spring understanding to take what the defense gives you? He did. And I think that was something that just comes with more reps, and he got many of them in the spring and did a great job with that. But, he's always looking to, we're always looking for that shot when you get that one-on-one down the field. It's the quarterback's job to throw it down there to him. And if we get that opportunity, and Dylan's always looking for that, but there's a big difference between getting a one-on-one opportunity down the field and throwing it into coverage.
All right, GA, hang on one second if you don't mind. Quick break, and we'll come back to you for a couple more minutes talking with USC quarterbacks coach GA Mangus here on Sports Talk.
To be on ice after last night's loss to the Spurs in the NBA Finals. San Antonio now leads the series 3-1, and they're only 1 win away from winning their 5th league title since 1999. And of course, you can catch Game 5 right here on ABC Columbia on Sunday night.
With the news following. Up next, Reg has one last look at your 7-day forecast.
We hope you stay with us for more ABC Columbia News at 6. We're live from Maine and Gervais.
The distance in the air, then the spin once it hits the green.
Pretty happy traveller, which is just as well, given that this group would give any coach sleepless nights.
And I think it could be a night like this where you just go home, be thankful for your kids. Just try to put it behind you.
Back by Harder. Forward by Isla. Alexis Sanchez able to get it under his spell. Couldn't on.
All right, stand by, guys. We're coming back.
And we're back, Sports Talk, visiting with USC quarterbacks coach G.A. Mangus. So you bring up the incredible stat from last year, 24-1 ratio for Shaw. I mean, does Dylan feel any extra pressure on him because of the guy that he is following and the success he had, A, winning games, and B, those stats were just mind-boggling? Do you have to kind of remind him that, you know what, don't worry about trying to match what Connor did?
No, I don't worry about that. And I don't think he does either. None of us worry about any of that. He, Dylan's his own guy. He's always prepared the way that he has, and which is the right way to go about it. And he plays within himself. He knows what his abilities are, what his strengths are, and what his weaknesses are. And he's worked on his weaknesses very hard, and he has very few of them anymore. And very, very proud of where he's at and where he's come from, and he's earned his time to go, and I know he's looking forward to it. So that's really all we're talking about is that hey, this is you patiently waited, and this is your opportunity, and he's very, very excited about it, as we all are. So we're looking forward to it.
Is it incorrect for people to assume that with the change in quarterback, two different types of quarterbacks, that the running threat from the quarterback position when he's in there is pretty much out the window?
No, he had 91 yards last time he started a full game upstate, didn't he? I think so. He's more than capable of running the football. And is it the same? Does it look exactly the same? Not necessarily. But again, like we've talked before in the past, I think Dylan has always been a better runner than he's ever gotten credit for, and Connor was always a better passer than he ever got credit for. You get kind of labeled early sometimes one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But Dylan's more than capable of running the ball when we have to, and getting it out of his hand and understanding how to get down. And it may not be as flashy at times, but he's a good runner.
Behind him, are you confident enough that you could insert one of the young guys behind him? Do you have that security blanket behind him like you had behind Connor? You had Dylan. Do you have that security blanket behind Dylan?
Well, hope so. Hope so when we get to August. There's some, they were talented guys, highly recruited guys, and guys that did some nice things in the spring. They all have, with the youth of them all, they've got that's where the summer meetings are, a little bit advantageous this year because they are back young again since we, with Tanner transferred, kind of has that gap in there a little bit of, down to Nocevich, who will be a sophomore. But all three of them did some good things and did some not so good things. They all got a bunch of reps. Perry Orth, did some nice things in the spring. and they all know what they got to work on. They're all working extremely hard this summer, and with a good summer and then get into fall practice, hopefully one will come forth and kind of get to the forefront of being the second guy. But I think they're all capable and all doing what they need to do over the summer to get themselves ready to play. So we'll see what happens.
Coach, as always, we appreciate the time and enjoy the rest of the camps and your summer, and we'll see you soon when we get ready to kick it off.
Okay, buddy. Enjoy your summer, too.
You
Take
too,
care.
man. Thank you very much. All right, G.A. Mangus, USC quarterbacks coach, joining us here on Sports Talk. Back in a moment.
I didn't make many mistakes today, and I got a little tired the last 3 or 4 holes.
I worked on my English.
Played solid. Had a lot of good chances to make birdies, and
All right, stand by. I'll bring you back. I'll grab Bob, and then we'll run this audio.
once again, we thank G.A. Mangus for being with us here on Sports Talk. He certainly sounds supremely confident in his quarterbacks, Dylan Thompson, and following Dylan Thompson, whether it's Brendan Nosovich, Connor Mitch, Perry Orth, certainly sounds confident in all those guys. And tell you what, the guy ahead of those guys certainly set the bar extremely high, both in terms of what he did from a team standpoint and what he did individually. Both quarterbacks at USC and Clemson face tough tasks following the guys that have just left. But they have to be their own guy. They have to be their own quarterback and play the game the way they know how. And we'll see how Cole Stout and Dylan Thompson step up. It's amazing how similar it is. You've got two guys that have bided their time playing behind the most successful quarterbacks ever in their respective programs. They're both fifth-year seniors, and now they get their one shot to make it happen, both for themselves and for their team. So we'll see if they're able to step up and handle the job. Now, it's a big weekend, Father's Day, weather's hot. A lot of folks going to be out on the water. And, of course, everybody, you want to have fun, but we remind you to please never drink and drive your boat. Always designate a driver and always wear your life jacket. And, of course, want to make it through the summer safely. So you'll be sure to make it to those ball games to watch Cole Stout and watch Dylan Thompson and others this coming fall. Now, I didn't have a chance to mention, since we jumped into GA so quickly, I haven't had a chance to mention USC's football commitment from today. It is a defensive back, Antoine Wilder, 5'11", 175. He's from Atlanta. He's a teammate of Arden Key, the defensive end, who's already committed to the Gamecocks. That's the third commitment in 2 days for USC. He was offered officially today at the camp, and he accepted on the spot. So that's a pretty nice pickup for South Carolina. He also had an offer from Mississippi State, and he prides himself in his man coverage, had 122 tackles last year and a couple of interceptions. And the Gamecocks are very close to a commitment from another defensive back, Damon Arnett, who was in today for a visit and is coming back. He wants to bring his parents with him to look at the school before he makes a final decision and an official commitment to South Carolina. But it certainly looks like the Gamecocks are in good shape with him. Zach Bailey was also in today, the big offensive lineman from Summerville who had camped at Clemson earlier this week. He was at South Carolina today as well. So that battle between the Gamecocks and the Tigers for him will continue. Meantime, Clemson having its second session of summer camp beginning today, and the Tigers have a number of big-time players in for this session as well as like they did for the earlier session. Some guys arriving later tonight like Tim Settle, the defensive lineman from Virginia. But as of this evening, no news from a commitment standpoint coming out of this session of Clemson's camp to this point. And we'll give you the complete recruiting report coming up a little bit later on. Now, I haven't been able to get to the rundown at Michigan. Let's do that and tell you what Kevin Harvick did today. A blistering lap, 204.557. That's second fastest lap in terms of a qualifying lap ever for NASCAR, behind the 212 point something that Bill Elliott turned back in 1987. Jeff Gordon was next at 203.776. In fact, the first 20 starters all eclipsed 200 miles an hour in qualifying today at Michigan. So it's Harvick on the pole, then Gordon, then Earnhardt Jr., Eric Almirola, Paul Menard, Brad Keselowski, Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, and then Joey Logano and Brian Vickers rounding out your top 10. And it's going to be a very fast track at Michigan, as it always is. It's always been one of the fastest tracks on the circuit, and they don't have restrictor plates, so they can just cut it loose. And today they really took it up a couple of notches, 204.557. Now, as far as the U.S. Open is concerned, the play continues there as the second round is winding down, and nobody's going to catch Martin Keimer today. He's got a 6-shot lead, and he's probably having dinner somewhere in the Pinehurst area. Brendan Todd is his closest concern, and he's still on the course with 2 holes to go. He's 3 under for the day, 4 under for the tournament, and 3 others are in the clubhouse. I'm sorry, 1 other's in the clubhouse at -3. That's Kevin Na. 2 others on the course at -3, Brant Snedeker and Jordan Spieth, who just missed a short putt for birdie I think on 14. Would have put him at 4 under, but right now he's at 3 under with Snedeker and Na. And Dustin Johnson from Columbia, his second straight 69, he's at 2 under par. So Keimer in firm control of things for him after 2 rounds, 65. He talked about his play so far in the tournament.
Didn't make many mistakes today, and I got a little tired the last 3 or 4 holes, but I could make good up and downs, especially on 6 and 7. Yesterday and today, especially on that golf course, the way I worked my way on around the course was quite. I hit some smart shots. I didn't play too aggressive, and when I had a good number, I went for the flag, and I didn't make many mistakes on the green. I didn't 3-putt. I made a lot of good putts today and yesterday.
All right, Martin Keimer, the leader, midway point of the U.S. Open. Well, some golfers still on the course, but basically at the midway point. Dustin Johnson, of course, one of the pre-tournament favorites, the Columbia native, the Coastal Carolina product, back-to-back 69s, and he is at 2 under par.
Solid. Had a lot of good chances to make birdies, and just a little off with the putter. I missed a real short one on 6, but other than that, I thought I played really solid and put myself in in good spots all day.
All right, Dustin Johnson, his comments after his second straight 69. I like what GA said, guys, when he talked about the tournament. He likes the look of the golf course. I remember just watching on television the way number 2 looked the previous 2 times they had the Open there, and you had the big thick rough, and of course you had the humpback greens. The greens haven't changed from that standpoint. They're still difficult as all get-outs. But, I like what they've done in terms of clearing out all that heavy rough and letting just the natural growth around the fairways take over. And, one guy has been able to master it so far. It doesn't mean that, generally speaking, the course is playing easy because, everybody else is back in the pack and well behind Keimer. And we'll see if Keimer backs up over the weekend. Now, he's not a guy because he's a proven international champion. I don't think he's a guy that's going to let pressure get to him. If he fails over the weekend, it's just because he hit bad shots. But I don't think this is a guy that's going to crack under the pressure of having the midpoint lead in the U.S. Open.
Well, I think he's, sometimes those guys, you hate to use the cliche, but they're zoned in. He's comfortable on the course. He's found a couple of good restaurants in the area. He's getting some sleep.
But it gets harder on Saturday and Sunday when the gravity and the weight of what you are about to do starts settling in. They trick out the course a little bit. He's going to be going in the last group now, so he's going to be off in the afternoon when the sun's had a chance to really get out there and speed everything up on those greens. So, but he's got a huge working margin, of course, and that always helps. But it doesn't take long to really give up 2-3 strokes on a hole, and then it unravels. I don't know this guy's nothing personal, but just as a golf fan, I want it to get a little kooky. I pull for craziness.
Yeah, you want to see some.
I want to see the guy hit it off a tree and into the stands, and
I'm a little disappointed.
You don't want a guy to run away with it.
I don't want to see the U.S. Open look like the John Deere Classic, where they're shooting 10, 15 under par like Tiger did.
Well, he's the only one that's doing it.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't where they're supposed to be.
I'm hoping he's going to back up. Nothing against him. I want to see a typical U.S. Open where they're around par, even over par, and they're really on Sunday afternoon, the last 9 holes, it's a real meltdown out there. And we've seen that over the years with the U.S. Open at various courses, and I'd like to see that again happen over the weekend. But I don't know. Martin Keimer, you saw how he handled things and how he won the Players' Championship, holding together in very tough situations there, and he's been in the screws of pressure to win important golf tournaments in the past. So I don't know that the pressure of winning the Open is going to get to him, but maybe the course will catch up. We'll be right back.
Stand by.
All right, let's check in on the Atlanta Braves back at home off the road to open up an interleague series against the Angels of Los Angeles / Anaheim. They come in with a record of 36-29. Braves a record of 34-31. We welcome in Mike Morgan for our Braves report tonight. And I'll tell you what, how do you like what they've done with the interleague schedule? I mean, when they first started doing it, it was during pretty much a designated time of the year. Now, of course, with the way things are, I know there's always one interleague. Well, originally there was one interleague series always taking place once they did the flipping of the leagues last year. But now they've had interleague games practically from the beginning of the season. There's just, I guess they decided no more set time for having interleague games.
Well, once they made some of the maneuvers that they did, the latest being the Astros going from the National League to the American League, so now you have an odd number of teams in each league, essentially meaning you had to have continual interleague play of some sort. I don't mind it. I'm not one of these people that is anti-interleague play and really never have been. My only concern has been I think every team in your division should play the same team out of your league. So, for example, the Braves and Nationals should have identical interleague schedules. So should the Mets, so should the Phillies and Marlins. But unfortunately, that's not the way it is. So inevitably, you find these very stacked schedules versus easy schedules versus American League teams, and I think that's the very definition of unfairness when it comes to scheduling.
Yeah, I would agree. And the Braves, I mean, they haven't won an interleague game this year going into the night. 0-6 against the American League.
Right, and it's not going to get easier when you play an Angels team that's playing good baseball, that does everything well. I mean, if you look up and down this lineup, they were a huge underachiever last year based on the payroll, but Pujols now is obviously much better than he was a year ago. Trout, who I'm looking forward to seeing in person for the first time, is obviously one of the top players in the game. They've got great starting pitching. There's not a whole lot of things that this team does not do well, so this will be another kind of daunting task, much like the Red Sox was not long ago.
All right, Aaron Harang tonight for the Braves against C.J. Wilson. After that great start, of course, he's kind of backed up a little bit. And what's the future with him?
You know, it's one of those things where if Harang keeps giving you quality starts, and I think that the number I last read was something like 10 out of 13, it's hard to argue with that. I'm like a lot of people. I was skeptical at the beginning, and I'm still skeptical here in mid-June that at some point Aaron Harang's going to level out a little bit. And this is a team last year when Harang was in the American League that absolutely rocked them. So that would be a bit of a concern as well. But you got to give Harang credit. He has been good. He has been better than you would have thought he would have been. And he's done it this is not like he had 3 good starts and that's it. He's been very consistent now. And we're coming up on the All-Star break, or at least the midway point of the regular season. So we'll see if he can keep it up.
Haven't seen many comments by La Stella. Anything in the Atlanta area he's commented on his experience so far in playing second as an everyday player?
I think Tommy is just your typical wide-eyed rookie. I mean, there was talk that La Stella could maybe get called up later in the year, but for all this to happen as quickly as it has, and for him to basically be penciled in the starting lineup game by game, you know, I think he's still kind of catching up to that. And quite frankly, that's probably a good thing. You don't need to think about it. Just go out there and play. That's worked for La Stella throughout his career. So hopefully if you're Tommy La Stella, you never have to sit there and reflect like, am I really in the big leagues? Am I really in the starting lineup for the Atlanta Braves? Just go out there and play, and then as a Braves fan, you never have to worry about Dan Uggla back in the starting lineup. And Tommy La Stella seems like a guy that could be a very productive player for this team for a while to come.
You mentioned Harang and the Angels. I mean, he's 0-5 lifetime. His ERA a little bit under 8. I mean, why does he have such a hard time with these guys?
I mean, that's a good question. Sometimes those numbers it's just a coincidence. Now, obviously, the Angels have had some pretty formidable lineups the last couple of years, but that's overboard. And one of the things I've learned is that when something like that starts, that kind of trend, I promise you, Aaron Harang has heard about it. He's well aware of it. So psychologically, let's say he has a bad first inning tonight. Well, there's something in your mind that says, oh, no, here we go again against the Angels. You wouldn't be human if that didn't somehow enter your thought process. So he's got to try to exercise the demons here tonight against a team that really has had his number.
Okay, Mike, thanks very much. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys.
Can't wish Mike a happy Father's Day because he's not a father, as far as we know.
As far as he knows.
Harang, by the way, hasn't won since beating the Cubs 5-2 back on May.
I've seen some kids, in these towns where Mike travels that look a lot like him. I mean, just miniature Mike Morgans.
As far as Estella is concerned, I would assume that when that meal money is doled out, he knows he's in the majors.
Whit Suber of Home Shop Realty brings you the Braves Report, where you pay less for more. Call 803-518-3888, and by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals.
Stand by.
Coming up in our next hour of Sports Talk, we will have our recruiting report for you. We will hear from Monty Dutton, the full Monty, on NASCAR, and a little interview with Connor Shaw from up in Cleveland. Of course, he's fighting to make that roster, and maybe even more than that. Maybe, he's still thinking about winning the starting job. Don't know if he can pull that off, but at least battling for the backup job there. We'll hear some comments from him as well coming up in our next hour here on Sports Talk. And we can take your phone calls. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. So feel free to give us a call. You want more out of your education? Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. And to find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. Aaron Brenner from the Post and Courier has another story this afternoon from Dan Radakovich at Clemson talking about Jack Leggett. More disclosure about what they talked about in their meetings, quoting Radakovich. K-Mac is basically saying he considered firing Leggett.
Yeah, quote, well, I would probably be less than honest if I didn't say that it was considered. Had Jack walked in here and been totally obstinate and not receptive, maybe there would have been a difference, end of quote. And it got into more detail about Jack Leggett being more politically correct in post-game interviews and prowling growls and saying that, he needs some help cooling off. They're going to bring in a different media relations guy outside of the baseball SID, Brian Hennessy, for big games to make sure that Leggett is prepared for the media. And all these things, if they were happening in back channels,
is that the same thing as coaching? Are they going to
I don't know. Are they going to ask him if he has to? What if the AD at Alabama told Nick Saban he needed to do a better job dealing with the media? Now I get it. He's winning, and that's what it all comes down to. That would be the responsible. Nick Saban's won championships. Exactly. That's all that really matters is winning. So you need to figure out, is Jack Leggett not winning because he's prickly with the media after a tough loss? Is that why they're not winning? If that's the case, then get another guy in there. I mean, that's not going to change anything. You want to win games. If you win games, you can act like Popovich in your post game. They're about to win the NBA championship, and he's not good with the media. But I don't think the GM and the owner of the Spurs are going to go, you know what, we need to work with you, Pop. You need to be a little bit better. Nick Saban, you need to be a little better with the media. No. I mean, those guys win, and Jack Leggett's been a winner too.
That seems to me, a lot of those 4 suggestions that were made, to me, seem like reaches. They just seem like things to me that you could create as ideas of things that you can do, but they seem like reaches. I don't know that any of those 4 suggestions are going to make Clemson baseball any better, other than the way you get better is recruit better players and have them go out and perform better and coach them up better. I mean, that's going to make for a better Clemson baseball team, not whether or not they have a shrink sitting with them in the dugout.
Underestimating the power of psychology. We didn't. I was wrong. Hi, stand by, gents.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Friday night. Appreciate everybody joining us around the state tonight. Those of you who have chosen to do so, we're always grateful that you tune in and listen to us, or occasionally call in, or occasionally send us an email, whatever is your choice of communication. Perhaps you want to communicate through Twitter. @SportsTalkSC is our Twitter address. Again, want to wish everybody a very safe and happy Father's Day weekend coming up. Hope everybody enjoys being with their pops, and be back with us on Monday. Coming up, we will be hearing from former USC quarterback Connor Shaw, now trying to make it with the Cleveland Browns. Also, we'll let you hear what Kevin Harvick had to say today after turning in that blistering lap of over 204 miles an hour in qualifying at Michigan. Monty Dutton will join us at the bottom of the hour, the full Monty on NASCAR. So we'll get his thoughts on all of that coming up a little bit later on as well. And the second round of the U.S. Open continuing to play out at Pinehurst #2. Martin Keimer with the big lead after a pair of 65s put him at 10 under par. And right now he has still, nobody's really made a move. He has that 6-shot lead. Brendan Todd is in after a 67, so he is 6 back. He'll be in the final pairing along with Keimer. Kevin Na and Brant Snedeker, they are in as well at 3 under par, so they'll form the next pairing tomorrow when they tee off in the morning. Dustin Johnson, after another 69, he is in at 2 under. The cut looks like everybody is in, so the final cut came at +5. It moved a spot. Was at +4, so it's at +5. They'll have 70 golfers to play the final 2 rounds beginning tomorrow. And as far as the state golf contingent is concerned, of course, Dustin Johnson makes the cut, and Bill Haas makes the cut at 4 over. Russell Henley makes the cut at 4 over. Lucas Glover does not. In fact, he said afterwards he might not play again this year. That's what he said to reporters afterwards. 8 over for Lucas after a 69 today. Kevin Kisner also missed the cut, 75-77 for him. Bubba Watson, Masters champion, missed the cut at +6. Phil Mickelson, he does make it for the weekend, a 73 today, puts him at +3. Ernie Els makes it. He's at +4. And Roy McIlroy's at -1, still very much in the hunt. And Jordan Spieth, well, he is one guy still out on the course, and he has dropped back. He missed a putt that would have put him at 4 under. That was back on 14, I believe. He's now playing 18. He's at -1. So he's never really recovered from missing a relatively short putt, and that's one of his strengths. Those short putts that's what's made him a high-level golfer and one to watch at the tender age of 20, but he missed that one. Don't know if that's led to his little bit of an implosion here down the stretch of his round, but he's at 1 under as he plays the 18th. All right, we're going to hit a break, and we'll be back. More sports talk coming up.
Obviously, it was a really fast couple laps, but
Stand by.
All right, coming up, we're going to hear from Kevin Harvick, who set a track record at Michigan today at over 204 miles an hour. There are a bunch of guys that went fast today. 20 drivers all eclipsed 200 miles an hour in qualifying, and we'll hear from him coming up in just a moment. Want to remind you that when you're out on the water this weekend, have all the fun that you want, but please do not drink and drive that boat. Always designate a driver. Always wear your life jacket. Let's all make it through the summer safely and in one piece so we can be around for those football games, those exciting football games coming up this fall. Some commentary on Twitter, K-Mac, folks responding to some things that you have put out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Dan Radakovich, again, it seems like we're talking about this a lot, but every time we go on the air, another story comes out with more quotes from Dan Radakovich. It's not like we're not able to let it go. It's we keep reading stuff about it, but our biggest question, my biggest question, I think, and I think everybody in the panel agrees, is why is this coming out? It's one thing if behind closed doors these guys are trying to hash things out and ways to make things better. That's fine. That's par for the course. This happens all the time. But ADs never share that with the media, ever. They don't say what they're requiring the coaches to do and changes and talk about the coaches' weaknesses publicly. That doesn't happen. But Clemson Tiger 18 says it's transparency. Well, I mean, I think that, again, it's ridiculous. You don't want that kind of transparency. You don't throw a coach under the bus for transparency's sake. Dabo Swinney's not going to tell us the first 5 plays of the Georgia game to be transparent. Dabo, what are your first 5? You don't tell somebody that because it doesn't do anybody any good. Another person says, why have a press conference if you're lying? Well, exactly. Why have the press conference at all if you're Dan Radakovich? All you have to say is, Jack and I talked about things that we're going to do better together, and I believe in him, and he's been a winner. He's going to be a winner again here. I'm confident in that. He hasn't once said that. I'm completely confident that this guy is going to win. He's not. Dan Radakovich has made it clear he's not confident that Jack Leggett is going to win again. If he was, he would say it, number one, and two, he would extend his contract. That contract, by the way, he's due to make $400,000 the next 2 seasons. If they part ways, Clemson only has to pay him half of that. So it's a pretty school-friendly comment. Matt says, I don't have an issue with the first 3 tenants because I'm sure every other team does that, but number 4, which is the image one, he said god-awful.
Every other team has a psychologist on their involved in their program.
And again, if you're going to do that, why tell everybody?
Not so sure that every team has a.
You're just giving first of all,
counsel.
You're just giving people ammunition and the wrong kind of ammunition. And as an AD, aren't you supposed to have your coaches' backs? Isn't that part of what you're doing? Isn't Jack Leggett supposed to be part of the team? He hasn't done this for Dabo Swinney or Brad Brownell. He hasn't. I mean, and again, is this the way he's going to run his department? If Dabo Swinney loses 4 games, are we going to see tenants come out for him? Well, he needs to be a little less long-winded in the media and not say things like, we're on par with Florida State after we lose by 50 points. I mean, is that going to come out next where he's publicly doing what fans on message boards do? Because that's what it sounds like. This sounds like a guy that's reading the message boards and trying to respond to those people.
Yeah, it's been a very strange situation. You just don't see in big-time college athletics, you just don't see this sort of public exchange between an athletic director and one of his major coaches. It's usually held behind closed doors. And you had one caller said, one Twitterer said that he liked it because it's transparent. No, I mean, not everything that goes on at your school needs to be out for the public to know about, especially when it comes to decisions of personnel. In fact, when they have these meetings that are normally open to the media, then they go behind closed doors to discuss personnel matters. Well, this is a personnel matter that's being discussed very much in the wide open to the harm of the coach.
Yeah.
This has done nothing. Every time it's come up in the media from Dan, it's done nothing but further damage Jack's reputation.
Right. And Jack Leggett, when he was on the show shortly after it was announced, and I asked him specifically, this is before the story came out, the day before Dan Radakovich talked to reporters, what those changes would be, and Jack Leggett politely said, that's going to stay between me and Dan Radakovich.
Exactly.
Those are the things that we discussed behind closed doors.
Yep.
And he said, look, I'm not opposed to changing. So he's on board. He said, look, I'm not opposed to changing. I've done this for 3 decades plus, but we all want to get better. We all have the same goal. We want it to be positive. So you're moving forward at that point. But then Dan Radakovich decides to come out and just start hammering this guy publicly. What do you gain? I mean, how is this going to make a better environment for Jack Leggett? You're just alienating a guy that has won a lot of games.
Unless he's doing one of two things, perhaps. And you made a good point there. If Jack leaves, they owe him half of what they owe him if he stays. So, perhaps he's trying to make it so uncomfortable that he'll want to leave, number one. Or number two, maybe he is just setting it up so that if the baseball team does not have, I don't know what it's going to take for next year.
Well, yeah.
Making the regional is not enough.
Well, yeah, but when you look at
making the tournament's not going to be good enough for Clemson baseball next year under Dan Radakovich.
And they're going to lose eventually. I mean, that's just it. Clemson's not going to win a national championship next year. It's just so hard to do. Maybe they'll catch, but the odds are they're going to lose their final baseball game somewhere, whether it's in a regional, a super regional, or in Omaha. And no matter what, he's been to Omaha 6 times. So if he goes a 7th time next year and they go 0-2, you're still going to have a faction of fans that go, he can't win big games with his personality. I mean, it sounds to me like
how about Mike
Clemson's
Martin?
Done with them.
Does Mike Martin have a personality issue?
I know. Danny
know.
Hall at Georgia Tech. I mean, these are all guys that are highly successful coaches that haven't won a championship. And Mike Martin, they got beat in 2 games in their regional at home as a national seed. And I don't think, let me pull up the Tallahassee newspaper. Is a Florida State AD making him cool off more after games and change his image and asking, specific questions about, do you know how to run a baseball program?
I mean, this is so sophomoric. It's almost childish the way this thing has been played out.
It's not even professional, because any good administrator knows that everything you do, especially in public, sets a precedent. So now, not only do we have these articles, the articles puts him on the record. So guess what happens? These articles are already floating around. Well, that's one job I'm not going to look at. Other coaches, I'm not looking at. What you're doing is not only is you making it tough on a present coach who's Hall of Fame, you've made the job toxic.
Yeah,
it's toxic
great point.
That nobody wants it. Because they say, oh, is this how they treat a Hall of Fame coach? I don't want that job.
Baseball America, perfect game. A lot of people that have seen these things have responded, and in inside baseball circles, people going, that's unbelievable. Where their sympathies kind of go out for Jack Leggett, going, that's a tough job. And Pro's right. There isn't one baseball coach or any coach on any level in any sport that would see that and go, man, that's a guy I want to work for. I wish somebody would do that to me.
Let's make it clear here just a moment before we say anything else. Aaron's story today, I'm assuming that he's writing from the same conversation they had earlier. Yeah. So there wasn't an additional conversation today where Radakovich is still putting that stuff out there. So he's just putting out another story based on the quotes he had from that meeting they had on Wednesday, I think it was, wasn't it?
Earlier this week.
Yeah, it was Wednesday because I wasn't here.
No, he's not having multiple press conferences.
Right,
they're not trying to put that impression out there. He had one sit-down with a select group of people and, said way too much. I mean, I think it's not just a blunder, but a huge blunder for an athletic director to make. Again, if you don't want Jack Leggett and you think he's expired and can't win, fire him. It's a gutsy move. It's a tough decision, but that's what leaders have to do sometimes, and bring in your guy that you think can get it done. If not, you got to back him 100%, and this isn't a 100% backing, and it puts Jack Leggett in what I think is an untenable situation. I don't know how anybody could work in that situation. Put yourself in that spot if your boss was treating you like this. Anybody out there, human nature is, you'd be upset about it. And Pro was 100% right. Any baseball coach out there worth his salt would not want to work for somebody that's going to treat him this way and under these circumstances. Nobody would.
All right. We are going to hit a break. Connor Shaw was recently interviewed to talk about his progress with the Cleveland Browns organization. We'll let you hear what the former Gamecock quarterback had to say in just a moment.
dotted line?
Yeah, well, I visited with Cleveland a couple of weeks before the draft.
What was it like when you realized you were going to be a Brown when you signed on that dotted line?
Yeah, well, I visited with Cleveland a couple of weeks before the draft.
All right, not too long ago, a bunch of the NFL rookies and free agents had that symposium out in California. We heard interviews from there from Jadeveon Clowney and from Sammy Watkins when they were out there. And here is one done with Connor Shaw. I do not know the interviewer, but you'll hear his questions as he talks with Connor Shaw about being in Cleveland and working for the Browns and trying to make a name for himself there and in the NFL.
I visited with Cleveland a couple of weeks before the draft, and I had a good idea that I might be coming back. So to sign that contract when I came to Cleveland, it was really surreal, and I'm really excited to be a part of the Brown Nation.
What did you know about the Browns going into this time, and what have you taken from your conversations since?
Well, I knew that they just got a new staff in. I had a chance to meet with them a couple times before the draft, so I really enjoyed playing for the new staff. I really like the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator and the head coach. Really thankful for the opportunity, and I think Cleveland's done a lot of good moves in this offseason to put us on the right track.
Yep, there's another quarterback here. That's high profile. Is a Brown. What have your conversations with him been like?
It's been great. You know, Johnny's been he's a fellow SEC quarterback.
Yep.
Two great competitors. He's a great football player. So I think it's going to be an exciting year for both of us, and I think we'll continue to push each other and bring out the best in each other.
All right, and what do you feel like you bring to the Browns organization? You're somebody that threw literally one interception last season. I've had more coffees today than you had interceptions. What is it that you feel like you give them?
Well, I'm very tough. I pride myself on being the toughest guy on the field.
Yep.
And I'm a good decision maker. I don't turn the ball over, and I'm an elite competitor. And I think a lot of those things are the same as Johnny. So I think Cleveland's brought in two quarterbacks who are willing to compete and bring a lot to the table.
All right, there you go, Connor Shaw, and very confident as always about what he will be able to do in Cleveland. It's going to be very interesting watching that camp this summer once they really get started and get down to the serious competition. I mean, Brian Hoyer is the guy that's supposed to be the starting quarterback. I don't think they expect anybody to go in and knock him out of that job. Manziel's going to have all the hype and all the attention. It could be a golden opportunity for a guy like Connor Shaw. And don't forget, Tyler Thigpen is in the mix there as well. So we've got two guys with connections to South Carolina to keep a watch on there in that Cleveland training camp. And you've got a brand new coach, brand new coaching staff. And who knows, maybe they maybe they're going to want to look for somebody, a new face, a new type of quarterback to build around with their new regime.
The only thing I can think that helps Connor Shaw is what you said. They have a new coaching staff, and maybe they got a long-term agreement that we're going to bite the bullet this year. And if Johnny Manziel does win the quarterback situation, I think if the court of public opinion pulls in, he will be starting this season. Wouldn't you want a quarterback to back him up who has similar traits to him, maybe not as flamboyant, but runs, and that's Connor Shaw, if you're going to run the same game plan.
All right, we'll hit a break. Got some racing coming up for you. The full Monty on racing. Little Kevin Harvick as well. We'll be right back.
So you blew it today with the pre-commitment. I'm going to kill a spider. We still got one more to go. One more. That is it. Stand by.
All right, a little NASCAR conversation coming up with Monty Dutton in just a moment. And also we're going to hear from Kevin Harvick, who set a blistering pace today in qualifying at Michigan. The current Powerball jackpot now $40 million. Be sure to purchase Power Play for an extra $1 for a chance to increase your winnings from the South Carolina Education Lottery. All right, before we get to money, here's Kevin Harvick, 204.557. That's a track record at Michigan.
Obviously, it was a really fast couple laps, but the car has been really good since we unloaded it off the truck. And, you know, these guys put fast cars on the track every week, and we've been in contention for poles and wins. And today was just, it all came together from the time we unloaded. So just really proud of my guys, really proud of everybody at the Hendrick Engine Shop and, you know, on these big racetracks. And when you have fast cars, you know, speed makes the driver's job a lot easier. So it's been a good weekend so far.
And Kevin, you may already know this, but your speed is the fastest pole-winning speed since April of 1987, when Bill Elliott set the all-time qualifying record of 212.809 miles per hour at Talladega.
Just a little shy of that.
A little shy of that, but it's still pretty quick.
Yeah.
Your ninth pole in Sprint Cup Series. Third pole is a single-season career high for you.
Yeah, you know, it's this format has obviously been good for me to kind of, I guess, creep up on it as you go through the sessions, and a fast car allows you to do that. So fast car really solves a lot of problems, and Rodney and the guys have done a great job with that, and we just keep at it.
Jim Uttershaw, Observer, you kind of just touched on this, but when you've had instances where you think you had a race capable of winning and for whatever reason comes up short, to come back to the track and continue to be fast, is there better medicine than that, really?
Well, you know, I think every week, you know, the cars are fast, and you're able to, you know, to really be competitive. And when you have problems, you can leave with your head up still, just for the fact that you know that you've got the speed to contend for wins and do the things you have to do to win races and contend for poles. So it's a lot of fun. But no matter if you're running good or bad, Monday morning you have to forget about winning or losing the week before, just for the fact that next week's a new challenge and a different style of racetrack, and a lot of different things come with it. So I think the experience of myself and everybody on the team are we've been tested at whether we can do that or not this year, but I think everybody's proven week in and week out. When we unload them, usually every week for the first practice, the car is fast, and just keep plugging away.
All right, the words of Kevin Harvick after his explosive showing today at Michigan. We welcome in Monty Dutton to Sports Talk. Monty, former NASCAR beat writer, joins us every Friday night to discuss all things NASCAR. So 20 drivers at 200 plus and 204 plus track record speed today by Harvick. And what's your take on where all the speed's coming from? And is there some concern that these cars are now once again getting too fast?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about slowing them down next year, with the exception of the plate races. Track records have fallen at most tracks. They've been over 200 at Michigan for 2 or 3 years now. This is the highest it's been. I think the cars are, without question, a lot safer. I don't think the drivers seem to be concerned, but it's always a race between safety and speed, because even when you can get lulled into a false sense of security, there have been times before when people felt as if racing was very, very safe, and then slowly it shifts, as at about the turn of the century, when Kenny Irwin and Kyle and Adam Petty were killed one year, and then Dale Earnhardt died the next, and that launched a great crusade towards safety. Mm-hmm. and the way the cars are mandatory Hans devices and all sorts in the compartment of the car. No one has been hurt other than, broken ankles and things like that in quite some time, although Dale Earnhardt Jr. was sidelined for a while with a concussion. But anyway, I think there is concern, as there always must be, but I don't think the concern is, I don't think the danger is very great compared to some years back.
But there's one thing about racing, and if you're talking about, improving your ratings and getting fans in the seats, speed attracts the race fan. That's what they want to see. They want to see pure, unadulterated speed out there. And listening to NASCAR radio this afternoon after qualifying, I mean, they were all abuzz about this 204.557 that Harvick hit today.
Well, it's not just the only place. The fact is that, think about the Indy 500 where they're running 230 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And at least if you look at those, earthbound rockets, you would say to yourself that would be a lot more dangerous than the stock cars. But it is. I think that 204 miles an hour at Michigan, which, by the way, is the highest speed ever at a plate track.
Mm-hmm.
Well, or now plate tracks.
Yeah.
It is, but it's exciting in sort of two ways. Exciting because, wow, they're going that fast, and sort of exciting in the peril hangs in the air means too. So we'll just have to see what happens right now because nothing's going to change before Sunday.
That's right. Now, what's going on between Casey Kane and Kyle Busch, stemming from last week and apparently carrying over through the week? And people are wondering and these two are going to start side by side in the race Sunday, and people are wondering if they're eventually going to try to take each other out. What do you think is going to happen between those two, if anything?
Well, I really do think there is a history there, and I think it's sort of part of it is coincidence that they happen to be in the same wrecks a lot. But I think that Casey Kane, who by the way, it sort of it's when Casey Kane is a pretty mild-mannered guy. It's kind of like, he's, the man starring in the James Stewart role and the man who shot Liberty Balance. Don't push me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like this is like an action adventure epic here, but I do think that Kane is definitely tired of it, and I think the likelihood is that the two of them will not cut each other the type of breaks that are routinely cut during races when, it's best to let the guy go and wait till another time when the race is on the line later.
Some are wondering if they're going to wreck each other on the first lap. Some are wondering if they're going to wreck each other on the first lap.
Well, particularly Casey Kane really needs to win a race.
Yeah.
He really, and so I don't think it'll be on the first lap. I think that the fans there will hope it'd be on the penultimate lap.
Now, let me ask you real quick before we run out of time. Jimmie Johnson has never won at Michigan, which is hard to believe. And does he get it done this time? Does he keep it going?
I always go the opposite from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They always say that if a guy hadn't won, they assume he's not good there. When a guy like Jimmie Johnson, I always think that makes him more likely to win now because there's nothing about that track or probably any other that means he couldn't win at it. So I think that probably makes it more likely for him to win a race. But I'm not like most people that way. I'm at cross purposes with the statisticians.
So who's your pick on Sunday?
Well, I think I sort of is picking Jimmie Johnson a little bit too easy.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go with the hunch. I have a feeling that before the season's over, Kyle Larson is going to win a race. And I think Michigan is exactly the type of place that he might do it. And it might even help him to have the guy who used to drive his car, Juan Montoya, making a surprise cameo appearance in NASCAR this weekend. Having him as a teammate might help the lad a little bit. So that's a long shot, but I do expect him to do well Sunday.
And Juan Pablo qualified 28th, row 14. Monty, as always, we thank you. Have a great weekend. Great stuff from you on NASCAR. The full Monty on NASCAR. You can get more from Monty on his website, MontyDutton.com. That's MONTE, Dutton with 2 T's, ON.com.
REC. Stand by.
All right, thanks again to Monte Dutton for being with us tonight here on Sports Talk. Give you a little recruiting. Defensive back Antoine Wilder from Atlanta became USC's third commitment in 2 days when he accepted an offer while at camp Friday. He's 5'11", 175, a teammate of USC defensive end commitment Arden Key. He went into the camp hoping for an offer so he could join his friend with the Gamecocks, and he said it was SEC football. They only lost 2 games last year. They are championship bound, and the way the recruiting class is going this year is great, he said. Wilder plays safety and corner in high school, but expects to be a corner with the Gamecocks. They run the same 4-2-5 scheme at his high school, and he says that he's aggressive. He plays a lot of man-to-man. He doesn't like to play conservative, and he says, I don't like to back off. I want to go after it. 122 tackles and 2 interceptions. That gives the Gamecocks 16 commitments in our books. Now, I've gotten some email from people because other lists don't have 16. I'm counting Dante Sawyer, former signee who's in junior college who plans to return or plans to enroll at South Carolina in January. I'm adding him on this list, and I don't know who else is missing from other lists, but I think the 16 number is accurate. Defensive back Micah Abernathy, Norcross, Georgia, remains interested in USC and has hinted the Gamecocks could be among his top schools. He doesn't really have a list of top schools, but he said he's definitely interested in USC. He's built a solid relationship with his recruiter, G.A. Mangus, and really likes him. Doesn't have any plans to visit this summer, but that could change easily because USC's close to home. He's got family in Charleston. Today he was going to be at Georgia. He named Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State as other schools he would like to visit this summer, and he wants to take a look at some schools outside of the SEC. He said a visit to USC will occur, but he's not sure when. Defensive back Damon Arnett of Fort Lauderdale left USC this afternoon without committing. He was on commitment watch. He did not commit. He wants to have his parents visit the school before making a final decision, and that could happen as early as next week. And there you go with the recruiting for tonight. Again, USC and Clemson having camps this weekend. Both of them have had big-time recruits in today, and we'll have more in over the weekend. So there could be some movement, one or both places over the weekend, and if something happens, we'll have it up on our website for you, sportstalksc.com. All right, today Ray Tanner, USC Athletics Director, went in front of the USC Board of Trustees for the annual meeting with the Intercollegiate Activities Committee. And basically what they want to know is how much is your athletic department going to make for us, and how much are you going to spend in the next year? And USC has projected revenues for the next fiscal year, $94.07 million. Expenditures are projected to be $83.47 million. So the operating revenue over expenditures of $10.6 million before transfers. And according to a recent survey by USA Today, USC is 25th nationally in yearly athletic revenues, but only 10th in the SEC. This is coming from a story by Scott Hood on Gamecock Central. So 25th nationally, but only 10th in the SEC. Now, here's an interesting quote from Tanner. Talking about the SEC network and the belief of many that that's going to be a cash cow for SEC teams. He said, quote, "We're excited and very optimistic. It will be a revenue producer, but we're not there yet. We need more distribution before we get into a positive cash flow where the schools will benefit. Will it happen in 2014-15? I'm not exactly sure," Tanner said. "Right now there is no distribution to share. We're going to need more cable providers on board in order to get into a position where there will be a positive distribution." End of Tanner's quote. So, I don't know. Is this SEC network not taking off like a rocket like they thought it would?
Well, I think they knew there was going to be a struggle to get people to pick it up. U-versus picked it up, and they need another national provider. Not Direct. Dish. They need Time Warner and or really they need both.
Comcast.
Time Warner, Comcast.
Well, Comcast,
Direct TV, but who knows? They're merging. It's all going to be one big giant company that screws us all over eventually. But I think what they're planning on is fans getting very upset when the SEC season starts, going, "Hey, all right, who's got it? U-verse. I'm going to them," and they're hoping that pressure forces Time Warner or Direct TV to cave.
So as it stands right now,
cable companies dig in.
The USC Texas A&M game is going to be the first broadcast on the new SEC network.
Won't be on in any. If you have a Direct TV or you have Time Warner, you won't be able to watch it.
We can't watch it here.
No.
In our studio.
No.
Well, that sucks.
I'm going to go ahead.
Well, you might not. You might not be able to watch it in the studio anyway.
We'll be lucky to have a TV. Might have typewriters.
All right, the second round of the U.S. Open is now officially in the books. A 6-shot lead for Martin Keimer. He'll be sleeping on that tonight. Brendan Todd, the closest one to him. Keimer at 10 under, and Todd is at 4 under. We'll see. You know, it's clouding up here. Looks like we could get some rain. They get some overnight rain in Pinehurst, soften that thing up again like it did last night, and it's going to allow for these guys to continue to make great shots and make a charge at the pins and have very good scores. So we'll see how that plays out tomorrow. You want more from your education? Well, Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. You can find out more. Simply go to palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. All right, it's been a great week here on Sports Talk. We appreciate you being with us throughout the week. Appreciate your phone calls, appreciate your emails, your Twitter comments, good, bad, indifferent. We like it all here on Sports Talk, and we appreciate all the guests we've had this week. Had a good array of interviews, we think, and a lot of good news to talk about in terms of passionate sports items in our state. That's one thing about South Carolina. We can always find something between the Gamecocks, Tigers, and others to be passionate about and have a good argument about or make a good point about. And the Jack Leggett, Dan Radakovich story this week pretty much carried us most of the way, and it was something that brought out a lot of passion from our standpoint. And for me personally, I mean, my feeling is that I think Jack's just been handled poorly in this case, and I don't think he deserved to be handled poorly in this case. And I think the fans who have been on – now, listen, I'm not there every day watching Clemson baseball, so I can't sit here and articulate the way they played this past season. I'm talking in terms of the general overall assessment of the program for more than 20 years at Clemson, and I think Jack Leggett deserves a lot more credit than he's been given here these past 5 days about what he has built at Clemson. He took it from where Bill Wilhelm gave it to him, handed it off to him, and has taken it even higher up the ladder in terms of national prominence. And they will be back. If he is, I mean, if I'm Jack, I'm like, why do I want to do this with this kind of boss behind me right now? And for his sake and for Clemson baseball's sake, I hope that he'll look at it from the standpoint of it's still my job, it's still where I want to be, I still want to prove people wrong, and I want to win big, and he and his staff will continue to work in that direction.
See, I know the world is not fair, but justice prevails, and sometimes when you treat people that don't deserve to be treated that way, watch what happens to you.
And if he does win like he has before, then Dan Radakovich can say, yeah, see, it's because of me. I put these changes in there. That's why you're winning now.
Well,
you're welcome, Jack.
I'll be shocked.
Those 1,300 wins, forget that.
I'll be shocked if those suggestions have much to do with winning next season. Have a great weekend, everybody. Look forward to being back with you Monday night here on Sports Talk.